Here's a statistic that should wake you up. Men over 50 who live alone have a 62% higher mortality rate than married men in the same age group, according to research from the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health. But here's what they don't tell you in that statistic. It's not the being alone that kills you. It's the mistakes men make when living alone that destroy their health, finances, and future. Brother, if you're a man over 40 living on your own, whether by choice, divorce, or circumstance, you're navigating territory that most men aren't prepared for. Society doesn't teach men how to thrive alone. It teaches men to be part of a unit, to be providers within a structure, to function as half of a partnership. So when you find yourself alone, you're operating without a manual in situations your father and grandfather never had to face. And the mistakes you make in these years can be catastrophic, costing you your health, your wealth, and potentially your life. I know you felt this. That sense of drifting, of not having a clear structure or purpose now that you're not building something with or for someone else. The temptation to let things slide because nobody's watching. The isolation that creeps in so gradually you don't notice until it's suffocating you. Fellas, what I'm about to share with you are the 9 deadly mistakes that destroy men living alone. These aren't small errors. These are the patterns that lead to early death, bankruptcy, addiction, and a wasted final chapter of your life. Pay attention, because catching these early is the difference between thriving in your independence and slowly dying in isolation. Let's start with what society tells you versus what reality is. Society says living alone should be liberating. Freedom to do what you want, when you want. No compromises, no nagging, pure independence. But here's the brutal reality. Men aren't wired for complete isolation, and living alone without structure and purpose is a fast track to deterioration. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that socially isolated men have a 43% increased risk of premature death, comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. This isn't about being weak or needy. This is biology. Men evolved to function in groups, to have purpose within a tribe, to build and protect something larger than themselves. Strip that away, give a man complete isolation, and his physical and mental health collapses, often faster than anyone realizes. The difference between men who thrive alone and men who deteriorate isn't personality. It's whether they avoid the 9 deadly mistakes I'm about to outline. Because every man who's living alone successfully has figured these out either through wisdom or hard lessons. And every man who's struggling has fallen into at least 3 or 4 of these traps. Deadly mistake number 1. Letting your physical health slide because nobody's watching. This is the silent killer. When you lived with someone, there was accountability. Someone noticed if you gained weight. Someone commented on your drinking. Someone pushed you to see the doctor. Living alone, all that external accountability disappears. You start skipping workouts because who's going to know? You eat like shit because cooking for one seems pointless. You ignore that pain in your chest because going to the doctor alone feels depressing. Before you know it, you've gained 30 pounds. Your blood pressure's through the roof, and you're pre-diabetic. Here's the data that should terrify you. Single men over 50 are 58% more likely to die from preventable health conditions than married men, according to the American Journal of Public Health. Not because marriage is magic, because married men have someone forcing them to take care of themselves. The brutal truth? Your body doesn't care that you're alone. It's still aging, still accumulating damage, still requiring maintenance. The difference is now you're completely responsible for that maintenance. And most men living alone fail catastrophically at it because they have no external pressure to succeed. Deadly mistake. Number 2. Isolating yourself and letting your social network collapse. This one creeps up slowly. At first, living alone feels like freedom from social obligations. No forced dinners with her friends. No pretending to enjoy activities you hate. Just you and your peace. But then weeks go by without meaningful human contact. Your friends stop calling because you've declined too many invitations. Your family gives up trying to include you. Work becomes your only social interaction, and even that's minimal if you're remote or retired. Research from Brigham Young University shows that social isolation increases mortality risk by 29%, comparable to major health risk factors like obesity and physical inactivity. Your body literally starts shutting down when you're socially isolated for extended periods. And here's what's insidious about this mistake. Isolation breeds more isolation. The longer you're alone, the harder it becomes to reach out. Your social skills atrophy. Anxiety about social situations increases. Eventually, you're so disconnected that rejoining social life feels impossible, so you don't even try. You tell yourself you're fine. You're an introvert. You prefer solitude. But your declining mental health, your increasing anxiety, your growing bitterness, these are all symptoms of isolation that you're rationalizing as personality traits. Deadly mistake number 3. Developing addiction or dependency issues without anyone to intervene. Living alone eliminates the natural checks on destructive behavior. Nobody sees how much you're drinking. Nobody notices the pill bottles. Nobody questions why you're high every evening or gambling online until 3 in the morning. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism reports that men living alone have a 37% higher rate of alcohol dependency than men living with partners. Why? Because there's no social pressure to moderate, no one to hide it from, no consequences beyond what you impose on yourself. And it's not just substances, it's porn addiction, gambling, video games, anything that provides escape without requiring human connection. Living alone, these addictions flourish because there's no external reality check, no intervention, no one forcing you to confront what you're doing to yourself. Here's the pattern. You start using something to cope with loneliness or boredom. It provides temporary relief. Nobody's around to notice or object, so usage increases. Eventually, you're dependent, but you're so isolated that you don't realize how bad it's gotten until something catastrophic forces the issue, a DUI, a health crisis, financial ruin. By the time you recognize the problem, you're in so deep that getting out alone feels impossible. And asking for help requires admitting the problem to people you've been avoiding for months or years. Deadly mistake number 4. Letting your living space deteriorate into chaos or squalor. This seems minor, but it's a canary in the coal mine for mental health decline. Your environment reflects and reinforces your mental state. When you're living alone and stop maintaining your space, it's a visible marker of internal collapse. It starts small, dishes in the sink, laundry piling up, then it escalates, trash overflowing, clutter everywhere. Eventually, you're living in conditions that would horrify anyone who saw them, but nobody does, so it continues. Research from Princeton University shows that physical clutter in living spaces significantly impairs focus, increases stress hormones, and decreases overall life satisfaction. You're not just living in a mess, you're living in an environment that's actively destroying your mental health. And here's the psychological trap. The worse it gets, the more overwhelming fixing it becomes, so you avoid it entirely. You stop inviting people over because you're ashamed. This increases isolation. Increased isolation reduces motivation to maintain the space. The cycle reinforces itself until you're living in squalor, completely cut off from social life. Your living space is either supporting your thriving or accelerating your decline. There's no neutral. Living alone in chaos is a symptom of deeper problems that need addressing before they destroy you. Deadly mistake number 5. Neglecting financial planning and letting your money situation deteriorate. When you're alone, there's nobody to reality check your spending or force financial conversations. You're spending money on takeout every night because cooking for one seems pointless. You're not saving because what's the point if you're not building a future with anyone? The Federal Reserve reports that single men have 63% less retirement savings on average than married men. Part of this is structural 2 incomes versus 1, but a significant part is behavioral. Living alone removes the financial accountability and future planning that happens in partnerships. You're not tracking expenses, not budgeting, not planning for retirement or healthcare costs. You're living day to day, and because nobody's challenging your financial decisions, you're slowly bleeding money on convenience, comfort, and coping mechanisms. Then one day you're 65, still renting, with nothing saved, facing retirement on Social Security alone. No safety net, no backup plan. And you're realizing that the last 20 years of financial carelessness just destroyed any hope of a comfortable final chapter. Brother, living alone doesn't excuse financial irresponsibility. It demands more discipline, not less, because there's no partner to catch you when you fall. Deadly mistake. Number 6. Losing your sense of purpose and just existing instead of living. This is the existential one. When you were married or in a relationship, you had built-in purpose. Providing, protecting, building a life together. Even if the relationship was broken, it gave you structure and direction. Living alone, especially after divorce, many men lose that sense of purpose entirely. You wake up and ask, what am I doing this for? Who am I building this for? What's the point? Without good answers, you stop trying. You do the minimum at work. You stop pursuing goals. You exist in a loop of work, home, sleep, repeat with no vision for what you're building or why it matters. Research from the Journal of Gerontology shows that men without a clear sense of purpose have a 43% increased risk of mortality and significantly higher rates of depression and cognitive decline. Your body needs purpose to thrive. Without it, you deteriorate. The brutal truth? Society gives men purpose through providing for others, and when that's gone, most men have no idea how to create purpose for themselves. You've spent your whole life deriving meaning from your role in others' lives. Living alone, you need to find meaning in your own journey, and most men have never developed that skill. Deadly mistake number 7. Becoming bitter and cynical instead of using this time to grow. This one destroys your soul. After divorce or failed relationships, it's easy to become bitter, to see all women as toxic, to view the world as rigged against men, to spend your alone time nursing grievances instead of healing and growing. Bitterness is poison, brother. It doesn't hurt the people you're bitter toward, it destroys you from the inside. Research from the University of Wisconsin shows that chronic bitterness and resentment are linked to increased rates of heart disease, depression, and premature death. Here's what nobody tells you. Living alone can be either the best thing that ever happened to you or the thing that finishes you off. The difference is whether you use this time to become stronger, wiser, and more complete, or whether you use it to marinate in bitterness about what was taken from you. The men who thrive after divorce aren't the ones who had it easier. They're the ones who decided that this chapter would be about growth, not grievance. They channeled the pain into purpose. They used the freedom to become who they were always supposed to be. The bitter men? They're still talking about their ex-wife 5 years later. Still blaming women for everything wrong in their lives. Still nursing wounds that should have healed years ago. And they're dying earlier, unhappier, and more alone than necessary. Deadly mistake number 8. Avoiding all intimacy and human connection out of fear. Some men respond to being hurt by building walls so high that nobody can ever reach them again. They live alone and like it because they're terrified of being vulnerable again. They've confused self-protection with isolation. Listen carefully. There's a difference between being selective and being closed off entirely. Selective is healthy. Closed off is slow death. Research from UCLA shows that chronic loneliness has the same health impact as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. You don't have to get remarried. You don't have to jump into another relationship. But you do need human connection. Friendships. Community. People who know you and care about you. Vulnerability with safe people. Most men living alone become so defended against being hurt again that they eliminate all possibility of connection. They stop trying. They convince themselves they're fine alone when they're really just terrified of being rejected or betrayed again. The truth? You survived being hurt. You're still here. And the rest of your life lived in self-imposed isolation to avoid the possibility of pain is not protection, it's a different kind of death. Deadly mistake number 9. Waiting for life to happen instead of actively building the life you want. This is the ultimate killer. Men living alone often fall into passive mode, waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for someone to rescue them from loneliness, waiting for life to start again. Meanwhile, years pass. You're still waiting, still hoping things will magically improve, still telling yourself that when X happens, then you'll start living again. And nothing happens because you're not making anything happen. Brother, here's the hardest truth. Nobody is coming to save you. Your life, from this point forward, is entirely your responsibility. Not your ex-wife's, not your kids', not society's, yours. The question isn't whether you'll live alone for the rest of your life. The question is whether you'll spend these years building something meaningful, or whether you'll waste them in passive existence waiting for circumstances to improve. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that men who take active control of their lives after major transitions report 76% higher life satisfaction than men who remain passive. The difference between thriving and deteriorating isn't luck, it's agency. Here's how you prevent this disaster before it starts. Prevention 1. Build structure and accountability into your life from day one. Don't wait until you've gained 40 pounds to start caring about health. Set up systems immediately. Weekly weigh-ins. Regular doctor appointments. Gym schedule that's non-negotiable. Meal prep on Sundays. Join a men's group where you have to show up and be accountable. Hire a trainer. Get a physical every year without fail. Structure prevents slide. Accountability prevents excuses. Prevention 2. Protect your social connections like your life depends on it, because it does. Make a list of the 5 to 10 people you want to stay connected with. Put recurring events on your calendar to see them. Weekly call with your brother. Monthly dinner with old friends. Join a club or organization where you see the same people regularly. Combat isolation with intentional connection. Don't wait until you're desperately lonely to reach out. Maintain relationships consistently even when you don't feel like it. Future you will thank you. Prevention 3. Set hard limits on escape behaviors and monitor yourself for addiction patterns. Create rules and stick to them. No drinking alone more than twice a week. No gambling online. Porn limited to once a week maximum. Whatever your potential vices are, create structure around them before they control you. If you can't stick to limits you set, that's your signal to get help immediately. Don't wait for rock bottom. Rock bottom for men living alone is often death, because there's nobody there to stop the fall. Prevention 4. Treat your living space as sacred and maintain it religiously. Clean as you go. Do dishes immediately. Weekly deep clean that's non-negotiable. Your environment is a reflection of your mental state. Keep it clean, organized, and comfortable, and you'll maintain the mental clarity to handle everything else. If you notice yourself letting the space slide, treat it as an emergency signal that something's wrong internally. Fix the space, then address the underlying issue. Prevention 5. Set up automatic financial systems so you can't screw this up. automatic transfers to savings every payday, automatic bill payments, monthly budget review that's calendared and completed without fail. Hire a financial advisor if needed. The cost is nothing compared to the disaster of reaching retirement with nothing saved. Living alone demands more financial discipline, not less. Prevention 6. Define your purpose clearly and pursue it relentlessly. What are you building? What legacy are you creating? What mission drives you now that you're not building a life with someone else? Write it down. Make it specific. Review it monthly. Let purpose drive your daily decisions instead of drifting through days hoping meaning will find you. Nobody's going to protect your future except you. Nobody's going to prevent your disasters except you. These 9 mistakes destroy men every single day, men who thought they were immune, men who believed it won't happen to me, men who are now cautionary tales instead of success stories. You're not special. You're not exempt. You're just as vulnerable as every other man living alone without a plan. The difference between you and them? Whether you act on this information right now, not next month when you're more settled, not next year when you've figured things out. Right now, today, this week. Your 65-year-old self is counting on your 45-year-old self to be smarter, to build the structures, to maintain the discipline, to avoid the traps. Don't let him down. He's depending on decisions you make today to determine whether his final chapter is lived in dignity or desperation. Stop consuming content and start implementing protection. Your future isn't going to build itself.